has a story to claim. Sit back, listen to conversation between Terry Lynn and new authors on the rise, and let the journey begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, Conversations Between Terry Lynn and New Authors. On this episode, I'm talking with my friend who is a children's book author, Diane Klein. But I call her Dee. She wrote another cute book, but this time we get to learn about bees. Welcome, Dee.
Thank you, Terry Lynn. I really appreciate the opportunity to come back and talk this time about Bomi. Thank you for having me.
Please tell us about your book.
Well, Bomi Beekeeper's Honeybee Nursery is the second book in my Steam for Little series, and I decided to have some fun with this book, and so I wrote it in a combination of poetry and prose, so it's very, very lyrical and still filled with lots of information.
I have Bomi Beekeeper's Honeybee Nursery, and I can see you had fun writing it. It's a great children's book.
Thank you. It was fun.
How did the idea for Bomi the Beekeeper first come to you?
That's a really good question. I love all things nature, and bees are such an important topic, and people are talking about bees, and I'm getting solicited to contribute to bee keeping places and things like that. And I just really thought about how important they are to our environment. So when I looked around, I saw that there were a lot of bee books that were written for children, but none of them were written from the beekeeper's perspective, which I thought might be interesting. And I submitted my manuscript to a poetry editor who jumped on that right away and said, "Oh my, nothing's ever been written from the beekeeper's point of view. This is really unique. You've got to do it. You've got to do it." And so I thought, okay, I'm all in. And originally I was just going to try and do it as prose, and she's like, no, 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 you must do it with the poetry that you have. I'll help you. And so Eileen Meyer at Poetry Doctors was fantastic and helped me very, very much with the poetry part of the story.
How did you balance fun storytelling with educational content?
I think that that's probably one of my favorite things to do. I'm a speech and language pathologist and a teacher of the deaf by trade. And so I believe that everything that we experience is a language lesson. Everything that we experience is worthy of a story or a story being told, and that everything we experience is educational in one form or another. So I just thought, well, what would be exciting to a child? And I still feel like a kid sometimes at heart myself. What would they like to know about? What would they like to learn about? And I know kids love bugs. And so I thought, what better way of doing it than exploring? And so just what I like to do is kind of ask the kinds of questions that make you take a peek, like you're looking from the outside in to, see, oh, what's this person doing and how are they doing it? And then you end up learning so much from the experience of just looking in on what the person is doing. That happened to me actually when I prepared for the book, and I had a fantastic opportunity to go to an apiary and spend an hour interacting with the bees. It was amazing, just the most amazing experience. But, I love to blend all of that together anyhow. And then at the end of each of my books, in the back matter, I have a specific section that's called Because You Asked. And I ask questions and then give very, very detailed answers about all different kinds of things that are related to the particular book. So in the case of bees, I talked about their lifestyle, their life cycle. That's funny. They have a great lifestyle, actually. Their life cycle and, the fact that they're amazing insects, they're important insects, what they do, what they don't do, the fact that there's a special name for their poop, and all kinds of things like that. So I try to make the back matter as interesting, if not more interesting, for the adults who are reading the book, as for the kids as well. So I always mix it all together.
Wow, interacting with the bees and their hives must have been an incredible experience.
It was initially intimidating, but having the entire bee outfit on made me feel really safe. And there were, when I say thousands and thousands of bees, I am not kidding you. There were thousands of bees. There were three hives, and they were everywhere. And I wasn't scared at all, which was amazing to me because normally when I'm outside, a bee or a wasp or something flies by me, I'm like, whoo, get away, and trying to shush them away. And this was so calm. It was just like the coolest thing to have them land on me, and I wasn't scared. It was so cool to be able to watch them and watch what they were doing, and it was neat. It was actually neat. So, yes, I'd do it again.
Why is it important for kids to learn about pollinators at a young age?
I think the kids really need to learn that everything has a place in nature, and bees as pollinators obviously have a huge place in nature. Without them, we would have a problem with food. And kids need to understand that's the purpose of pollination. Most kids wouldn't even think about that unless it's brought to their attention at some point in time. And typically, they might learn about that at some point in science class, but it's so much easier and so much more fun to have a story when they're very young that's an engaging story about bees and what they do and how they live and how long they live and what happens when a bee does this, that, and the other thing. And it helps kids gain respect. And I think that children need to have respect for all things in nature. And so learning about pollinators at a young age is one way of gaining respect for those very necessary insects that help us live and stay alive.
Yeah, teaching kids to respect even the smallest creatures like bees helps them understand how everything in nature works together. When they learn this early, it builds both curiosity and care for the world around them.
Definitely. Definitely.
What key lessons about bees do you hope children remember most?
I want them to remember that bees are actually a society like people. That yes, they're insects, but they live together like people do. They protect each other like people do. They communicate with each other like people do. And they have rules that they follow just like people do. Um, in addition to all of those things that they're insects, but they make them like us. They also have really good health habits. They make sure that their hive is clean. They make sure that everything is in its place, exactly where it's supposed to be. People have no idea. First of all, people don't know that bees necessarily do go to the bathroom and all living things go to the bathroom, so bees do too. However, they never ever go to the bathroom in the hive. They always leave the hive in order to go to the bathroom. And just for your own information, the name for bee poop is frass, Frass, frass. So you put that one into your memory bank. You can use that sometime and just say, "Oh, frass," and you'll know what you're saying. But I think that it's just really important for them to understand that bees are primary nature helpers. And I want them to remember that and that we need bees. We really can't exist without bees.
Such a great point. Bees work together like a community, and we truly need them. What role does STEAM learning play in your writing approach?
When I write my STEAM stories, I really go and do a lot of research. And I think that that's important for the stories to be valid, for the stories to be realistic, for them to touch on things that are important to us that we always think. I remember when I was a kid and I would take science and math and stuff like that. And I would always think, how does this apply? Why do I need to know this? And I think by writing STEAM, by using STEAM strategies and STEAM ideas in these stories, and these are everyday kinds of stories, that children have the opportunity to see very quickly the applications of science, the applications of technology, engineering, art, and math. And you can do it in a playful way. You can do it in a very engaging and interactive way. It doesn't have to be boring like so much of the stuff sometimes in school we get. It feels like it's so boring the way it's taught to us. And that's why we're always thinking, how does this apply? How does this apply? So I try to write the books in a way that makes everything applicable to our lives and even to a child's life. You know, they can understand the idea that bees have a job and that bees have a life and bees construct amazing things and they produce amazing things and then bees die. You know, it's like a whole life cycle thing. So, and that's science. I mean, that's science. That's life science. And so, I just think there's wonderful ways of engaging children's understanding of the elements of STEAM very naturally in the way that you write the story and you present the information.
That's a great way to write. Seeing everything through a STEAM lens makes it easier to find connections and keeps your curiosity just like a child's.
Yeah. I know when I research, I'm always so curious. And the things that I learn for each of the books is it's just incredible to me because, you know, nobody knows everything. So yeah, I love the curiosity part of it too.
How did you work with the illustrator to bring the hive to life?
This is great. My illustrator for this book is a gentleman named Joris Handoko, and he lives in Indonesia. And so, you know, again, this whole cross-continental collaboration that we have being a writer and an illustrator. And he was wonderful in that what he did was he looked at the entire manuscript and then just started sketching some of his ideas immediately, just to give me an idea of what he thought he was perceiving. And in addition, he did some of his own research before he started to do some of the sketches. And so he took what I had, did some of his own research, and then produced these sketches that when he sent them to me, I was flabbergasted because they were wonderful. They were not only the information that I wanted to be there in a beautiful way, but there was extra stuff that he, through his drawings from his research, he added into his drawings that just made the illustrations so come to life. It was wonderful. It was just so easy to work with him. He also used humor in some of the things that he did, where, I mean, I wasn't intentionally bringing humor into the story, but through some of his little drawings, it was hilarious. He did a couple things that were just really, really funny, and so very, very appropriate and engaging, and just made the book that much better because it added that element. So it was so important for us to be able to communicate easily and effectively when we did have questions for each other, and we had no problem doing that at all. And he's like a good friend now because, you know, we just collaborated so closely and so frequently. So that was like key to it being gorgeous, a gorgeous book.
Yeah, Joris Handoko did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Did you do any research or visit beekeepers while writing this book?
Yeah, well, we did talk about that. But yeah, I did a lot of research in terms of looking at other online resources, academic resources about bees, and then also, as I said, I visited the apiary. And between the things that I learned in all the academic online resources and from the beekeeper herself at the apiary, it was just a really fascinating and incredibly educational activity for me to get all this information and then be able to put it in the book in a way that kids would like it. So yeah, lots of it.
That's awesome. Visiting an apiary and using your own photos makes the vocabulary come to life for kids.
Yeah, that was one of the main things that I did want to do at the apiary, because in the back matter, there's all the terms that are used that are associated with beekeeping, and kids wouldn't necessarily know those words. And so I wanted to make sure that I got pictures of each of those things while I was interacting with the beekeeper, and then it was just natural to put that right in the back matter, as a vocabulary list with pictures. So it worked out really well.
What surprised you the most about bees during your research?
Biggest surprise, I was shocked at how short their lives are. I just really, it's months. I had no idea that bees live such a short amount of time. When you actually look at and examine and think about all the work that bees do, and it's an incredibly heavy load of work that they do from the minute they emerge from their cell until their last day of collecting uh, nectar and pollen. It's exhausting. They never stop. And so I never really thought about it from that point of view. And their lives, the queen has a very, very long life, but the workers, who are the females, and the drones, who are the males, have very, very short lives, very short lives. And that was a big surprise, very big surprise. In addition to the number of jobs that the workers had to do, because you think about bees, oh, they collect honey, they make honey, they collect pollen. Oh my God, they do so much more. They do so much more. And there's at each stage from when they come out of their cell is a different job, different job, different job, different job. And then they just keep moving forward until their last job is actually as foragers. It was interesting, very interesting stuff.
Those are interesting facts. What advice would you give to authors who want to write educational picture books?
I think a very important thing is for you to be interested in the topic yourself. If you're not interested yourself, you're never going to be able to write a convincing book that's fun, that's challenging, that's whatever you want it to be. You have to write about what you like, what you're interested in, or what you are wanting to research yourself. And then, write your story based on the research that you get. The more excited that you get about your own research, ultimately the better story you're going to write. It'll be more joyful and more informative. So be personally invested in the topic.
Great advice. When you're interested in the research, your story becomes more joyful and engaging.
It does.
What exciting books are you working on next?
The next book in the series is actually almost ready for illustrations. I'm fine-tuning the manuscript now, and that's been a blast to do that. I'm getting wonderful input from my writing group. The name of the book is The Wormleys Go Wandering, and it's about earthworms, just common earthworms. And it's a fun little story. Some of the other possible topics for future books have to do with moles and elephants and unique birds like kiwis or blue-footed boobies or puffins or things like that. Just interesting animals. Just taking an animal and then doing something interesting with it. So those are the things that I kind of have in mind for the next few books in the STEAM for Little series. And then in my middle grade series, I'm actually doing the origin story for the orb right now and working on that. So kind of working on 2 or 3 books at the same time.
I'm in your writing group, and I can testify to The Wormleys is another wonderful book.
Thank you. The input that it's so important. I know I mentioned this before. Having a writing group is critical to make you a better writer. It just really is. You can't look at your stuff 100 times and be self-critical about it. You just can't. It's so important to have other people read it and say, "Oh, did you think about this?" Or, "Oh, did you think about putting it that way?" Or, "Oh, maybe you want to change this idea." And 99% of the time, they're right because they have fresh eyes and fresh thoughts. And so the writing group is, yay, it's wonderful. And yes, Terry, you're a wonderful part of the group. Thank you.
I second that. A writing group makes all the difference in an author's life. Where can people find you online and follow your journey?
The best place right now really is my website. It's www.dianekleinwrites.com. All the books are there. I try to keep up to date with school visits and things that I've done, like little podcasts and stuff like this. Thank you, Terry, that I get invited to do. I do have a Facebook page, but I'm so bad on my professional Facebook page. I don't post on it enough. And so I hate to tell people to go there because they'll go and they'll say, "Where is she?" So I have to get a little bit better at that before I start telling people to go there. But the best place really is the website. So thank you for checking it out.
Thank you, Dee, for your information. I will put your website in this episode's notes below.
Thank you.
Is it anything else you want people to know about you?
Oh, I am an adventurer. I am an adventure seeker. I always have been since I was a little girl. For me, nothing is too scary to try, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. I've tried all kinds of things that are really scary, and it's for me, it's fun. I mean, I've gone skydiving, I've gone whitewater rafting, I've kissed camels, I've bathed elephants. I mean, I've done all kinds of really neat, cool things. And I just think you learn so much by not being afraid, by putting yourself out for having all different kinds of experiences. And you learn, no matter what you do, you learn from those experiences. So that's why my favorite saying is adventure on. You can never adventure on too much. So adventure on.
Love that. Your adventurous spirit makes your stories even more exciting. Did you really give an elephant a bath?
Yes, I did. And actually, one little girl who read the Penguin book and loved it, Percival's Amazing Adventure, asked her mom to ask me if I could write a story about an elephant. And I thought, well, of course I can. I can write a story about anything. And then I thought, I actually have pictures of me feeding elephants and being in a mud bath with an elephant. An elephant. It's like, yes, I can do that. So yes, I have done that. I have bathed an elephant in a big river. It was fantastic. It's just fantastic. And the elephant was just the sweetest thing in the world. Just love it, love it, love it. And it was big. It wasn't a baby. It was like a mama elephant. It was a big one. It was great. Yes, I did that.
Thank you, Dee, for talking with me on my podcast, Conversations Between Terry Lynn and New Authors on the Rise.
Thank you, Terry Lynn. It's my pleasure always to chat with you, and ask me anytime. I'm more than happy to chat with you about anything. So thank you again for having me.
You are very welcome, Dee. Okay, my listeners, tune in next week when I give you an update on my life. Until then, happy reading with your kiddos.